Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Weather Sim forecast. And in today's forecast, we're going to be talking about a very dangerous storm that's going to be coming to the United States over the next few days. And this is going to be a really dangerous one, as not only could we be talking about a potential derecho as we head into the afternoon and as well as the evening hours today. This is where damaging winds, large to very large hail, and even tornadoes could all occur. We could see some wind gusts potentially reaching up to 90 miles per hour, and we could also be talking about some hail potentially even reaching up to 4 inches in diameter, which would be softball size. So we will talk about all this in today's video, and we will be going over some other things, so make sure to stay tuned till the end so that we guys know what to expect for the next 7 to 10 days. And we'll begin with what's happening across the United States right now. And you guys can see that we do have a moderate level 4 out of 5 threat for severe storms across northern Texas and as well as southern Oklahoma, including the DFW Metroplex. And one of the things that we are really keeping an eye out for is not only large to very large hail, potentially even up to softball size, but we could also be talking about even some damaging winds, potentially reaching up to 90 miles per hour, which appears to be the biggest concern today. We will talk about why in just a second, but once again, we will be seeing that chance for some winds potentially getting up there towards 90 to maybe even a few isolated wind gusts up to 100 miles an hour, as we could be talking about a derecho once again, and that also comes with a threat for even a few tornadoes. And I would not be surprised at all if we did see a small upgrade in our tornado threat right here across Texas and Oklahoma. I think this is where we could be talking about maybe a 10% hatched risk for tornadoes, and so we will keep an eye on the tornado threat very closely, as there is even a chance we could get a few tornadoes over here towards Virginia and as well as Delaware, especially this morning. So we will keep an eye on the East Coast very closely today as well, but it appears that the biggest concern for tornadoes is going to be over here towards areas of Oklahoma and as well as Texas. And then once we get into tomorrow, this is when the severe weather threat will continue to shift off to the east. It does not appear that tomorrow will be anything too significant, at least not nearly as significant as what we're dealing with today, but we could still be talking about maybe a risk for a couple of tornadoes. It appears that it will be a lot lower chance. So I don't think tomorrow's going to be a big day like today, but still we're going to have that chance for a few isolated spin up tornadoes along with the risk for some damaging winds, and that also still comes with threat for even some isolated large hail. But like I said though, it's not going to be anything nearly as bad as what we're dealing with today, but I still recommend you be weather aware. And then once we get into day 3, which will be after tomorrow, this will be for your Tuesday. We do have a couple areas to watch for. We got one across the East Coast, another one across the Southern Plains, and as well as Louisiana, and we got another one up there towards areas of Montana. Right now, we're not expecting anything crazy, and to be honest with you, this will probably be a day where we don't really experience a whole lot, but once again, things can always change, and we still are heading a little far out too, so we'll keep an eye on it closely. But as of right now, we are not expecting anything too significant as we get into your Tuesday this week. Let's also talk about why we could be talking about some very high wind gusts, potentially even reaching 100 miles per hour if everything comes together right. You guys can see that for the significant tornado parameters, once again, we're going to have plenty of that to work with. This is one of the reasons why we could get upgraded to maybe a 10% hatch risk for tornadoes, not just across New Mexico and Texas, but also across areas of southern Oklahoma and as well as northern Texas. So we will keep an eye on the tornado threat very closely, and at the same time where we see those high significant tornado parameters, there will be a derecho ongoing during that time frame, which could potentially bring chances for hurricane force winds. So it will start out as a few discrete cells. This is when we'll see our high highest chance of maybe seeing a few tornadoes, including some areas across Oklahoma City. After that, we continue to take this forward into the evening hours today, and we start to see a line of showers and even some thunderstorms start to form as we get into the nighttime hours tonight, especially around 9 o'clock. And then as that line of storms continues, it looks like that line of storms will continue to organize more into a big line as it pushes into areas like the DFW area, maybe even areas like the Dallas-Fort Worth area too. And those will be the areas that I think could get hit the hardest, because like I said, this is looking like the most organized part of the line, at least for where we are right now. If we take this back, we will still have some very strong storms, but once again, this appears to be the time where the line of storms will be the most organized. And while it's ongoing, we could once again be talking about those chances for hurricane force winds. You guys can see that when we look at the wind outlook, look at this. We could be seeing a couple wind gusts potentially over hurricane force. Look at that. We got a 76 mile per hour wind gust popping over there across northeast Texas. We look at that. We got a couple 60s, 70s, even a few isolated 80 mile per hour winds popping up in the DFW area. And then up here towards Oklahoma, we still could be talking about some winds between 80 to maybe even some 90 mile per hour wind gusts. So once again, guys, just because this may seem a little bit overdone doesn't mean we don't take it seriously. Okay, you guys really need to be taking this seriously, because like I said, I know this looks kind of overdone because models don't usually show this as much, but once again, because of what we could be talking about today, we're gonna take it seriously anyway. So we need to make sure you guys have ways to receive alerts like a NOAA weather radio or on your phone, and you guys also need to know where you guys are going to be seeking shelter, because winds this strong could cause tornado-like damage, maybe even as much as EF2 tornado-like damage, which would be pretty bad. Also, if we look as we get into the future, this is just showing you guys that severe weather will not be ending anytime soon. Even though today seems like the last day of significant severe weather, that is not true. We are going to continue to see chances for significant severe weather as we head into the future. And I think once we enter Father's Day weekend, we will actually have a pretty large area that we need to kind of, keep an eye on, because I think this is going to be the area that we're especially going to watch for, as not only will we be seeing dew points gain up there into the 70s, but we will also be talking about maybe even some pretty strong wind shear around 2 across some of those areas. So with strong wind shear, some pretty good dew points gain up there into the 70s, and as well as some Cape values between about 2,000 to even some areas gain up there towards 3,000 joules per kilogram. That is plenty to cause at least an isolated threat for tornadoes. So that is something we're going to watch for as we get into Father's Day weekend. And then once we get past Father's Day weekend, we still continue to see that risk for significant severe weather. But once again, guys, things can always change. We should probably take this with a grain of salt, at least for right now, because usually when you're heading about 7 days out from now, it's usually appears to be quite uncertain. But something that we are keeping an eye on, as the European model does want to point out some more big severe weather events. And you guys can see that when we look at the instant flashlight rate, this is pretty much telling you where thunderstorms could be. You guys can see that it does want to form a derecho right there, and where you see those white colors, that doesn't just indicate winds potentially over hurricane force, but also indicates chances for 2-inch in diameter hail with that derecho that could be ongoing by the time we get into the third week of June, which I think is possible. But like I said, it is still uncertain though, so I would probably take that with a grain of salt. Now, we already talked about what's especially important in today's video, but let's quickly go over the tropics so that way you guys understand about what's happening, because you guys can see over there in the Gulf, we got plenty of warm waters over there. Right over here in the Eastern Pacific, where we've been seeing most of our development, is still continuing to stay pretty warm, as you can see, and we still got, kind of a mix between warm and cooler temperatures, especially in this corridor right here. As you can see, it's going to be this area right here that we will either see an El Nino or La Nina, but like I said, it's kind of in the mix, so that's kind of why we're in a neutral phase as of right now. And you guys can see that, we still got a pretty big, area of warmer waters, which is actually north of where we're seeing that right now. And you guys can see that we do have the potential for Barbara, I should say, to become a Category 1 hurricane by the time we get into tomorrow. Right now, it's just Tropical Storm Barbara, but once we get into tomorrow, this is when Barbara does have the potential to become a Category 1 hurricane, but it does not want to impact any land, though. So most of us will be fine. Maybe some tropical storm-like conditions off the coastal areas of Mexico. Otherwise, most of the people should be fine, though. It's really just, about how we could be seeing some offshore issues. But other than that, I think most of you guys in Mexico should be just fine. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, as we will continue to keep you guys updated with this very angry storm that is going to be coming our way by the time we head into the later part of today. And the reason why we're calling it that is because, once again, we just got a very large area that could potentially see a derecho for today. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Make sure to leave a like on today's video, and make sure to also leave any comments down below. I'll be happy to answer any of that. And once again, we really do appreciate your guys' support to making things like this happen. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend out there, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye.